This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 29th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Another beautiful day on the way. We like this. Sun, clouds, high 79 tonight and overnight. Partly cloudy, low 64. And then Wednesday, nice too. Sunshine, a little cooler, high 72. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 52 partly cloudy in Pearl River up in Rockland County. 52 and mostly clear in Emerson over in New Jersey. And it is 56 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Classrooms across New York are about to become phone-free. The NYPD is investigating a mob that tried to attack a woman in Brooklyn. The search continues for a missing Long Island politician who left dogs in parks across 3 New Jersey towns. And a New Jersey bakery tells its customers to lay off the cologne. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. We'll start over at Newark Airport, where it was just a mess yesterday. An equipment issue led to major disruptions in and out of Newark Airport. The FAA says it began slowing arrivals and departures at Newark after telecommunications and equipment issues at Philadelphia TRACON. That's the organization or the group that guides aircrafts in and out of Newark. So you had these perplexed air traffic controllers who didn't understand exactly what was going on, why the communications had gone away. And they're trying to radio pilots who want to land at Newark and tell them, hey, you might need to divert to alternative airports, which is what happened yesterday for a while.
I guess this is a serious issue because I have one more arrival, and now I have nobody else coming inbound.
Yeah, so United diverted about 35 flights to alternate airports. People were like in Allentown, Pennsylvania, when they were supposed to be at Newark Airport. These flights delayed. Of course, the minute you have a flight delayed into Newark, that means the flight back out of Newark, because they're going to use the same plane, is even more delayed.
Hours and hours of circling Allentown, like banking it, and then just sitting on a tarmac.
Well, we just sat there for 3 to 4 hours, on the flight, grounded. So we were just waiting for fuel, but then there were 6 flights ahead of us.
Yeah, so the airline had a lot of cancellations, a lot of delays. It will probably be felt a little bit this morning as well because people weren't able to get out yesterday. They'll try to get them out today. So for sure, if you have something going out of Newark today, check before you head on over to the airport. But last night, things were beginning to return to normal, and travelers, some who had spent a lot of time on flights. This one woman, she had flown in from Los Angeles, and they then had her plane land in Allentown. So what would be normally a 5.5 hour flight from a place like Los Angeles ended up being a 9-hour flight.
It was long. A little longer than expected.
Never been so happy to be in Newark in my life.
Yeah, again, I was looking early this morning to see what was going on. There are some delays, and you'll definitely have some today to make up for everything that happened yesterday, but seems like so far so good. 5:03, Governor Hochul, New York lawmakers reaching a deal on a $254 billion budget for the next fiscal year, which includes this proposal to ban cell phones in public schools and a middle class tax cut. The governor making the announcement, this was last night in Albany. So New York would ban cell phones in public schools, bell to bell, as she likes to call it, beginning with the next school year under this new agreement.
We protected our kids before from cigarettes, alcohol, and drunk driving, and now we're protecting them from addictive technology designed to hijack their attention. Cell phones have dragged too many of our kids into dark places, but together, With this change in policy, we're helping them climb back into the light.
The governor did not immediately detail all the plans for this ban, like how it's going to work. Her office has previously said the schools would have some flexibility on how to implement this. So New York would join at least 8 states, California, Florida, Indiana, Louisiana, Minnesota, Ohio, South Carolina, and Virginia, that have enacted measures banning or restricting students' use of cell phones in schools. Now, there are some other highlights to this budget that was approved last night and includes the increase of the state child tax credit up to $1,000 per child under 4, up to $500 for school-age children. There would be a $340 million investment in the school breakfast and lunch programs across the state. More than 8 million New Yorkers would get what the governor's calling an inflation reduction check of $200 for individuals, $400 for families. The governor also talked about a middle-class tax cut, though she was short on details about that. And, of course, as more information comes in on this deal that was approved last night, we'll pass it on to you. 5:05. The MTA says subway fare evasion is down while revenue is way up.
Seems fewer people are jumping the turnstile. Demetrius Kricklau, president of New York City Transit, says their low-tech efforts are working.
Where gate guards are deployed, there's been a 36% decrease in fare evasion, 36% just from the gate guards. We know that that's been the superhighway of fare evasion.
The MTA says fare revenue is up 67% since 2021, not just because of new riders, but because more people are paying. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
By the way, that has not been my experience when I down below. It's amazing how many people step over that turnstile right in front of you, right in front of people who should be stopping them. Still going on, but according to the MTA, they've fixed it to some extent, so I guess that's a good thing. A man now facing murder and other charges in the stray bullet killing of that Harlem community leader and grandmother.
Police say 23-year-old Ricky Shelby surrendered to police Monday morning. He's accused of opening fire on 23-year-old Darius Smith, injuring him in the foot during a dispute on Lenox Avenue and West 113th Street last Tuesday night. A bullet also struck 61-year-old Exina Mayte in the head when she rushed out to check on her grandson. Smith, who allegedly opened the fire first, fled the scene on a scooter but was tracked down and charged with attempted murder. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go up to Canada, where Canadians made their voices heard last night. Federal elections picking Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals to continue leading that nation.
They were dead and buried as an electoral force just a few short months ago. But of course, what happened was that Donald Trump was talking about annexing Canada, and Canadians turned to Carney and the Liberals because they were the party that styled themselves the anti-Trump.
That's correspondent James Matthew in Ottawa. Down to Washington at 5:09. Border czar Tom Homan going after a Milwaukee judge who was arrested for allegedly helping an illegal immigrant evade ICE agents. Homan says, when you cross that line, we come after you.
I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us.
The FBI says Judge Hannah Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from a subject that was going to be arrested in her courthouse.
When you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
The man, Eduardo Ruiz, he was taken into custody shortly after a foot chase. He's been charged with misdemeanor battery and domestic violence. 5:10. The Navy says a $60 million jet has been lost at sea after it fell overboard from an aircraft carrier.
In a statement, the Navy said the FA-18E Super Hornet fighter was under tow in the hangar bay of the USS Harry S. Truman when the move crew lost control of the aircraft. All crew members are accounted for, with one sailor suffering a minor injury. CNN reports the Truman was making a hard turn to evade Houthi fire. The Truman recently had its deployment to the Middle East extended by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. I'm Brian Shook.
5:10. President Trump marking 100 days in office with a rally in Michigan. White House correspondent John Decker, traveling with the president, believes Trump will take a victory lap.
I think it's a celebration. The president and his team believe that this has been one of the most consequential first 100 days of any White House in recent memory.
The rally will take place at the Macomb Community College in Warren, which is just north of Detroit.
Anxiety that Americans, by and large, feel as it relates to the president's tariffs policy more than anything else. That tariffs policy, we've seen a decline in financial markets.
Yeah, polls show Americans, of course, worried about those tariffs. John Decker, who's traveling with the president, believes president will lean heavily into his work at the border when he takes this victory lap after 100 days in office.
On that particular issue, that's where you actually have some bipartisan support for what the president has done.
And we keep hearing from these different polls, there's a bunch of them about the president's first 100 days that show Americans a little worried. An ABC News poll says 39% of respondents approve of the president's job performance compared to 45% in a CBS News survey.
I do approve of Trump.
Like the saying goes, you can't rush fine wine and Rome wasn't built in a day, but my friends don't want to hear that.
We've seen 39% before, so I don't think it means anything to him at 39% at this point.
Well, I voted for him, but now I'm sorry.
There are some folks in Midtown there. Respondents concerned about the economy as the tariffs remain in place. Over 40% telling both CBS and ABC in these polls that their personal finances have worsened since the president took office.
That's a primary reason. It's the economy. It's the uncertainty in the markets. Interest rates are still not lower. We don't know what's going on. M&A activity is not up. I think that's it.
Prices are going up. Pet food is going up. Everything is going up because of the tariff.
It is amazing how expensive things are. I mean, they were expensive when Joe Biden was in the White House, too.
The country's hemorrhage into the rest of the world, and in a couple of years, the rest of the world is going to own our country, so they got to fix it.
We'll take it one day at a time, but let's give him patience. Biden was 4 years, and what did he do? He really destroyed our country.
Now, if you think we're just beating up on the Republicans, Democratic Party, boy, they're seeing really bad polling. Experts say that dissatisfaction with the leadership in the Democratic Party is growing every day.
One of the leaders of the Democratic Party in Florida switched parties. He no longer will affiliate with the Democrats. He became an independent.
Yeah, that's happened in a couple places. That's Professor Robert Stein at Rice University says the political divide is only growing deeper within the Democratic Party. He points to the censuring of Texas Congressman Al Green. Remember, he was the one who interrupted President Trump's speech to Congress.
That gives you an idea that the brand is simply not selling.
Yeah, so a Quinnipiac poll shows half of Democrats disapprove of how Democrats in Congress are handling their job. You hear from Democrats on the street. They say they wish their leaders in Washington would fight back harder against the Trump White House. 5:14. Let's go down to Texas, where they're looking to crack down on the sales of the abortion pill, which is being mailed to pregnant moms in the Lone Star State.
They show up on your doorstep in a nondescript package. Very little to no information about potential complications and side effects.
That's a state lawmaker who filed the so-called Woman and Child Protection Act that would allow citizens to sue the out-of-state companies, organizations that are sending the drugs. He says the telemedicine is great, but it should not be used to include abortions.
An estimated 20 to 30,000 abortion pills are shipped into Texas every year.
Yeah, so that's State Representative Jeff Leach, who says that abortion clinics have closed. The people who run them have shifted to mail-order medication from out of Texas.
We've seen this in other states, but Texas is leading the nation when it comes to mailing abortion pills that are purchased online.
And state lawmakers trying to figure out how to stop that. All right, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, which is in Jerusalem this morning. Good morning, Justin Albuck.
Yeah, good morning, Noam Layden. It's actually, we're right into the afternoon here, 12:15 p.m. local time.
Wait a minute.
Out in Israel.
So it's 7 hours ahead?
Yeah, 7 hours ahead.
Wow.
How many times do I have to confirm this with you layman over there?
Right.
Yeah, 7 hours.
It's Layden,
it's
by
easy.
the way, not layman. But
yeah. Oh, okay. Now we're getting technical, Mr. 6 hours, 7 hours.
Right.
Now. So I'm trying to keep up with all these sports. You know, it's 2:30 in the morning. You got to check in on the Mets and the Yankees. But we will start in D.C. Brendan Nimmo hit a grand slam and matchday franchise record with 9 RBI, helping the Mets pound the Nationals 19-5. Nimmo also hit a 3-run drive in the 7th. That's New York earned a split of the 4-game series. The Mets have won 9 of 11 to improve to a Major League best 20-9. Jeff McNeil and Mark Vientos also homered for New York, which finished with 21 hits. Up next, New York left-hander David Peterson starts tonight in the opener of a 3-game series against Arizona. In Baltimore, the Yankees fell 4-3 in their series opener with the Orioles. Aaron Judge, hitting a major league leading 405, had 2 hits to extend his on-base streak to 25 games. In his first appearance since being demoted from his role as Yankees closer, Devin Williams pitched a 1.23 eighth. He lowered his ERA to 10 flat. Starter Will Warren allowed all 6 hits in 3 1/3 innings of work. Up next for the Yankees, Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's middle game of the series from Baltimore. To the NFL, President Trump hosted the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at the White House yesterday afternoon. A contingent of coaches, players, and executives made the trip to Washington, D.C. for the event. Running back Saquon Barkley played golf with President Trump at his course in Bedminster, New Jersey on Sunday, and then flew with the president to Washington on Air Force One. Quarterback Jalen Hurts was among the players not in attendance. Multiple reports cited White House officials who said scheduling conflicts were the reason behind the absences of Hurts and others.
Well, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's a whole.
The president invites you to the White House.
Exactly. It's a whole. It's a crock. It's a crock of you know what. It is a crock of you know what. No.
Yeah, if your kid's like graduating high school, okay, I see that.
Of course.
But like, what else could stop you from going to the White House unless you just don't like the president?
That's it. Swallow your pride and get to the White House.
Just say I don't like the president. That's why I'm not going.
Right. Exactly.
Be brave about it if you're not going to show
Exactly.
up.
Right. Like Saquon Barkley had to come out and say, "I respect the office, man. I'm sorry for taking a plane with the president and spend some personal time with him." But
he
I don't
played
know why
golf with him. Is that what he did?
Yeah, he played golf with them. They didn't finish the round, though. So he's looking forward to finishing that round of golf with the president. But he tweeted out, he said, "I played golf with Obama a few weeks ago. So if you're going to slam me for this and slam me for that, too, man, you know, let's make this a two-way street." But obviously, you know, with these things, Noam Laden, it gets political, obviously, when it doesn't need to be. So, you know, but as an Eagles fan, if they keep winning Super Bowls, I couldn't care any less, personally. To the NBA, we're looking ahead to tonight from the Garden, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Knicks welcome in the Detroit Pistons for Game 5 of that first-round Eastern Conference playoff series. The Knicks leading that series 3-1. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick, live from Israel on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash, LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 520. Governor Pritzker defending his fiery speech in New Hampshire over the weekend. Pritzker responding to Republicans who are accusing him of inciting violence during that speech.
I called for people to take out their megaphones and their microphones, to stand up on soapboxes and get to the ballot box.
During his speech on Sunday night, the governor called for mass protests, for mobilization, for what he called disruption against the Trump administration. Illinois Republican Party chair called the speech inflammatory and dangerous. 520 down in Florida. Authorities there say the driver of a boat that crashed into a ferry Sunday night is cooperating with investigators. No charges have been filed so far. Major Evan Levowskis with the State Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says they're working with prosecutors to determine whether the crash was a hit and run.
If a hit and run occurred here and people were injured, people were heavily influenced by this event, we're committed to working those charges all the way through.
The driver submitted a blood alcohol test and passed. A male passenger on the ferry boat was killed. 2 others injured in this accident.
The captain voluntarily submitted to a breathalyzer, and there was no alcohol determined in that breathalyzer sample. It read 000 based on the certified breath test that was given to the intoxilizer.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. There's been a boat collision, the Clearwater Ferry. Underneath the Clearwater Memorial Causeway, the Clearwater Ferry is adrift.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like Sunday night. Police say the crash occurred just outside a zone where boaters are required to observe no wake speeds. Miami Beach police have arrested a second person now in connection with the theft of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse down in D.C. Christian Cezanna appeared in court yesterday.
He's charged with possession of a stolen or fictitious driver's license.
That's Judge Mindy Glazer says Cezanna had a fictitious California ID card, set bond at $2,500. Correction officials say Cezanna has an immigration, has a hold on immigration, has an on-hold immigration. I'm not sure what that means, but police over the weekend arrested the first suspect in connection with that theft of a guy from Chile.
Was set a bond at $2,500. In correction, did you say he has an immigration hold?
Yeah,
Yes.
both of these suspects are reportedly in the country illegally. I think that's what they were trying to say. An immigration hold. 522. The work of selecting a new pope through a secret process known as the conclave, set to begin May 7th. Correspondent Ann Thompson reports that the members of the College of Cardinals under age 80 will be allowed to vote, and that Pope Francis' successor must be selected by a 2/3 majority.
At the funeral, all heard the dean of the College of Cardinals praise Francis as the man who spoke for the voiceless, especially migrants and refugees, recalling the Pope's phrase to build bridges, not walls.
So once this conclave begins, cardinals will remain behind closed doors in the Sistine Chapel until the process is over. Voting will continue until white smoke is seen from the chapel chimney, signifying there is a new pope. What I find fascinating about this, I mean, just the process is interesting in itself, but that they're somehow able to stop from any electronics from getting into the Sistine Chapel. Do they have some sort of jammer? Do they wand people? Do they pat them down to make sure they have no electronic devices? Because I don't know a place on the planet where people aren't holding some sort of electronic device in their pocket.
The wait Sunday, 2 hours to spend seconds in front of his tomb. Ushers telling the crowd to move quickly and men to remove their hats.
Yeah, so that was part of the funeral over the weekend. The Archbishop of New York, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, he's remained in Rome with the process to select a new pope beginning next week. He posted a video on X where he said he's ready to get to work.
Even though this is somewhat of an exceptional, dramatic time in the life of the church as we mourn Pope Francis and await the election of his successor, it's also a time that prayer comes first. And if we don't ground our work in prayer,
now I wonder why 180 or the 80 age gap is there. Why you have to be, if you're 80 and over, you can't vote. Where that comes from, I'll have to look that up.
When we don't have a public mass, this is where I'd offer mass to begin the day with some of the other priests that are here with me. The Blessed Sacrament is here. I can steal some moments of prayer, which are sorely needed at this very critical time in the life of the church.
Yeah, so this again will begin next week, May 7th. 524. An Arizona man under arrest now after a fire at a Tesla dealership yesterday.
Authorities said a Cybertruck was set on fire early Monday morning at the dealership in the Phoenix suburb of Mesa. 35-year-old Ian Moses is facing arson charges. Graffiti with the word thief was also seen on a wall. Several incidents involving Tesla vehicles and dealerships have happened since CEO Elon Musk began his work with the Trump administration. The company has also seen a more than 70% drop in profits during that time. I'm Brian Shook.
From Arizona, we go to Southern California, where there's this historic algae bloom that's off the coast. It's hurting more than just marine life like dolphins and whales. Migratory birds are also falling prey to this algae bloom.
Because it is floating in the water, a lot of the birds that you see most affected are the birds that dive for their food. So birds like pelicans.
Yeah, that's J.D. Bergeron. He heads a group called International Bird Rescue. He says the red tide is not going away, so they cannot release their birds they're treating. There's a strain on resources there, and there are suggestions that the deadly algae bloom is due to runoff from wildfires. That, he says, has not been proven, though.
Essentially, they are swimming in the algae, which is the same thing that's happening with the sea lions and the dolphins.
Yeah, so these pelicans, they scoop up the seawater, and unfortunately it's all full of toxins apparently right now. Again, they think it's runoff from battling all those fires.
It can be a really challenging thing to watch as the birds, are literally having, seizures.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of those videos lately. 526 while we're in California. The Menendez brothers asking a judge to remove L.A. County DA Nathan Hochman from their resentencing case.
The brothers file a motion claiming Hochman is biased against them, and it's unlikely they'll receive fair treatment in their resentencing request. Eric and Lyle Menendez are serving life without the possibility of parole for the 1989 murders of their parents. They're asking to be resentenced in the wake of new evidence suggesting the boys were molested by their father. Hochman says the brothers have not taken full responsibility for the killings. A resentencing hearing is scheduled for May 9th. I'm Jim Roop.
You're listening to the #1 Nielsen-rated The News Hour with Noam Laden. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:36. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 29th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Another beautiful day on the way. Sun, clouds, high 79. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 64. And then Wednesday, beauty too. Sunshine, high 72. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 52 partly cloudy in Pearl River up in Rockland County. 52 and mostly clear in Emerson over in New Jersey. And it's 56 and clear right outside our Midtown studio. Big day for the radio station. Big day for the voters out on Staten Island in the 51st City Council District special election. It is today. Our friend Frank Morano is running for a seat. When the polls closed for early voting on Sunday, I was surprised by this number. Almost 4,000 ballots had been cast for an off-season election. That's April 29th. So people are completely engaged in the South Shore. The candidates, of course, our very own Frank Morano, Griffin Fasella, and Cliff Hagan. They're vying to fill a seat left vacant by former Minority Leader Joe Borelli, who gave up the seat because of term limits. So the Staten Island GOP backing Morano, of course, the radio host here, and the others, the big names like Roger Stone, Rudy Giuliani, they've also been supporting Morano. Griffin Fasella, who is the 27-year-old son of borough president Vito Fasella, previously worked in finance. Meanwhile, Hagan is a middle school teacher who has advocated against overdevelopment in the district. So polls are going to open on Staten Island in about 20 minutes from now at 6 o'clock and will remain open until 9 o'clock tonight. Now, things here change potentially at the radio station depending on whether Frank Morano wins or loses. So there's that intrigue for all of us there. And then, of course, things will change on Staten Island as well in the 51st District, which covers the South Shore of Staten Island. So make sure you're here. As the results come in, we will pass them on to you. Big day for Frank Morano, Griffin Fasella, and Mr. Hagan, all involved in this race out on the South Shore. 541. The search for a missing man running for a seat on the Nassau County Legislature, reaching its 6th day. Nassau County Police say Petros Kremidas, who's 29 years old, was last seen in Baldwin around 9 o'clock. This was last Wednesday. He was officially reported missing the following night. And as you might guess, family members just frantic to find him. Friends of his also searching for him.
He was coming to my karate. He was one of my favorite. And this is my beautiful Peter. So I want him back.
Kremidas, who is a Columbia University grad by all accounts, just a brilliant guy, running as a Democrat for the legislature's 4th district, a seat that's currently held by a Republican. That district includes parts of Oceanside, Island Park, Long Beach, and he had gotten into the race.
I would hope that they find him. Hopefully he's not in the water. It's horrible.
So Kremidas is not a small guy, 6'2", 230 pounds. According to officials, he was last seen wearing a camouflage print sweatshirt and gray sweatpants. He last posted publicly on his campaign Facebook page. This was last week. He was talking about an event he was having with the Nassau County Young Democrats.
What they're going through, my heart's devastated because no one deserves that.
Yeah, so no word. There's a thought maybe he went for a swim in the water on the beach in Long Beach. But so far, the family reported him missing the next day. They say it's completely out of character for him not to respond to texts or phone calls. Of course, we're wishing for the best in this outcome. 542. Let's bring it back here into the city. You remember we had told you this story, a horrendous story last week, of a matriarch up in Harlem, Exina Mete. She was shot in the head. This was last Tuesday night, a stray bullet. She was in a bodega, a deli where she sometimes worked, and she heard gunfire. This was like early in the evening on Tuesday, and she raced outside because she knew her grandson was out there. And when she did, she took a bullet to the head and she was killed. Well, the race was on to find this individual who fired off this shot, and they finally found this 23-year-old. His name is Rick Shelby. He surrendered yesterday, questioned before he was arraigned and charged with second-degree murder. Family members say Mette had been cleaning up the deli where she helped out on 113th and Lenox when the bullets were fired, and they're just outraged. I mean, they're happy that someone's been cuffed in this crime, but outraged that she's no longer here.
She just broke up a big dispute that they had before this shooting earlier that day. And I kept begging her, stay out of the middle of that, because I felt something. I did not know it was going to be this tragic.
Now, that's some of Mette's friends who were speaking out at a special service for her over the weekend. She was known as Mommy Z in the neighborhood, remembered as somebody who would just help out anybody. In fact, sometimes she would go and make fish, and she would just serve it to people who were hungry.
She was there for that community every Friday night. She cooked fish, stand for hours and cook fish to give to those children, those boys that sat over there every day.
So apparently Rick Shelby, this person who was cuffed and arrested yesterday, was shooting at someone else when that bullet hit Mette. 544. Word Monday night of a New York State budget deal in Albany.
The $254 billion budget is nearly a month late. It was due April 1st. The bill includes 3 Hochul priorities: a school cell phone ban, changes to make it easier to involuntarily commit people in psychological distress, and changes in prosecution discovery laws. But the deal watered down Hochul's proposed face mask ban to just blocking, quote, mass harassment, shrank her proposed child tax credit refund, and increases state corporate payroll taxes. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Other parts of this deal include the fact that more than 8 million New Yorkers will get what the governor is calling an inflation reduction check of up to $200 for individuals, $400 for families. 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noel Millett. And we'll start here on the Diamond out in D.C. Brandon Nimmo hit a grand slam, matched a franchise record with 9 RBI, helping the Mets pound the Nationals 19-5. Nimmo also hit a 3-run drive in the 7th. New York earned a split of the 4-game set. The Mets have won 9 of 11 to improve to a Major League best 20-9. Jeff McNeil and Mark Vientos also homered for New York, which finished with 21 hits. Up next, the lefty David Peterson starts tonight in the opener of a 3-game set against Arizona. Out in Baltimore, the Yankees fell 4-3 in their series opener with the Orioles. Aaron Judge, hitting a Major League leading .405, had 2 hits to extend his on-base streak to 25 games. In his first appearance since being demoted from his role as Yankees closer, Devin Williams pitched a 1.238. He lowered his ERA to 10 flat on the year. Starter Will Warren allowed all 6 hits in 3 1/3 innings of work. Up next for the Yanks, Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's middle game of the series from Baltimore. To the NFL, President Trump hosted the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at the White House yesterday afternoon. A contingent of coaches, players, and executives made the trip to Washington, D.C. for the event. Running back Saquon Barkley played golf with the president at his course in Bedminster, New Jersey on Sunday, and then flew with Trump to Washington on Air Force One. Quarterback Jalen Hurts was among the players not in attendance. Multiple reports cited White House officials who said scheduling conflicts were the reason behind the absences of Hurts and others. That's a crock of you-know-what. Trump called Hurts a, quote, terrific guy and terrific player despite his absence, and lauded him for his 2024 season. And to the NBA,
so maybe there was something to it, because you would think he would go on the attack if he thought Jalen Hurts was dissing him. No. Maybe there was a legit excuse why he wasn't there.
I think Trump was just taking the high road there, Nomer.
Oh, okay.
You know? Yeah. I mean, why waste a breath on it? You know, that's not the point of the visit.
The president usually likes to go after people who don't like him. So you would think if Jalen Hurts was not a fan, that he would say something.
Well, I think it helped maintain the potential forest fire that would have ensued had he done that.
Yeah, just unlike the president not to go after somebody who he thinks is dissing him. That's all.
That's not true.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you have a microphone that works, buddy. God.
No, that is just not true. That was the old Trump. This Trump is nothing like that guy.
No.
He's not going after all of his enemies. Right. Not even close.
Okay.
No, he's not. He's not. It's not the same guy. You're right. In 2016, every single person that crossed his path, he beat up. That's not this Trump.
Yeah.
It's not. So he doesn't care.
This is why people love this president, is he does go after his people that don't like him.
He does. So. This is not nearly the same Trump this time as the first time around. Not even close.
But Jalen Hurts, that's an easy target,
Right. In 2017, he would have killed him. Not this Trump.
Okay.
Not this Trump.
All right.
No.
Now, I enjoy it. I think it's big of him to take the high road there. Bigger and better things. Let's move on here. We're looking ahead to 7:30 p.m. tonight at the Garden. The Knicks will welcome in the Detroit Pistons. Game 5 of that Eastern Conference first-round playoff set there. The Knicks leading the series 3-2-1, trying to wrap it up tonight from the Garden. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. The MTA says they're getting a better handle on those people who jump the turnstile. They say subway fare evasion is down while revenue is way up. MTA officials like Demetrius Kritlow say their low-tech efforts to stop fare beaters by putting up those fins on some turnstile gates seems to be working.
Where gate guards are deployed, there's been a 36% decrease in fare evasion. 36% just from the gate guards. We know that that's been the superhighway of fare evasion.
They held a news conference yesterday. They unveiled these high-tech gate door prototypes of 4 very tall gate doors to be tested this fall. It'll be at 20 subway stations or so. The MTA's John McCarthy says things are looking up when it comes to fare evasion.
Fare revenue is up 67% since 2021. It's not just new riders, it's more riders paying.
5:51. A Brooklyn woman says she feared for her life as she was chased, kicked, and spit and pelted with objects by a mob of Orthodox Jewish men who mistook her as somebody who was taking part in a protest during this thing that was outside the Chabad Lubavitch movement in Crown Heights last Thursday. There was going to be an appearance by a member of the Israeli cabinet there. And this woman says, this is what she claims, that she was in the neighborhood, heard the helicopters over her apartment. She walked out to investigate about 10:30, and then she realized all of a sudden she was in the middle of this protest. She says about 100 men surrounded her. They encircled her. She spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity because she says she fears for her life. But here's what she says happened last Thursday night when this protest was ending.
I moved closer to the police than I already was, and they did nothing to intervene. I tried to leave, and a single officer attempted to escort me home, but this mob followed us. They grew in number. They were screaming at me, "Go back to Palestine."
The video is pretty intense to watch, Al, if you watch it. They were followed, this woman, for blocks by hundreds of men and boys jeering at her in Yiddish and Hebrew. At one point, you see these men kick her in the back. Another hurls a traffic cone at her head. A fourth tries to throw a trash can in her direction. And this one police officer was trying to protect her. He finally was able to get her into a cop car and get her out of the area.
And I was just terrified. There's nothing more I can say except that I felt just sheer terror.
Now, last night, Mayor Adams said that police were investigating what he called a series of incidents stemming from these protests that took place last Thursday. We reached out to the Chabad Lubavitch movement, a spokesman there, Rabbi Modi Seligson, denouncing both the protesters who were in front of Chabad Lubavitch and these ones who chased that woman on Thursday night. About Columbia University, faculty, staff, students, alumni started staging a 25-hour speak out, as they called it yesterday. They say they're doing it in defense of academic freedom, to protect student safety, and to demand accountability. So there's someone speaking for 25 hours straight, or at least, people switching off to go for 25 hours straight. Here's what it sounded like last night.
We are in an emergency. We are in a crisis. Our funding has been cut. Our health and climate funding has been cut. Our Board of Trustees has been complicit in some agreements that we're not necessarily all in agreement about in terms of influencing some of our curriculum.
The event comes on the heels of Columbia announcing it would comply with a list of Trump administration demands in order to preserve hundreds of millions in federal funding. Those changes include hiring dozens of new officers with arresting power, altering the disciplinary process, and appointing a new senior official to review programs related to Israel-Hamas conflict. A man accused of posing as a plastic surgeon has been indicted now on manslaughter manslaughter charges after a woman he operated on died after an implant removal. Felipe Ferranda was arraigned yesterday, second-degree manslaughter charges in the death of this 31-year-old mother of two. On Monday, a judge ordered him held without bail because prosecutors say when he realized he had made a mistake on this woman and that she passed away, that he tried to get out of the country.
This defendant got into his motor vehicle and drove straight to JFK Airport. And according to his statement, while en route to JFK Airport, he booked a flight from JFK, transferring in Florida, to eventually go back to Colombia.
Now, this fake doctor allegedly gave the victim lidocaine, a local anesthetic, and saline through a syringe during a procedure to remove butt implants, which apparently were causing her pain, and that's when things all went wrong. He advertised online. That's how he found her. The procedure cost $1,900.
If there's any other victims of his illegal activity for holding himself out to be a surgeon, to please come forward.
That's the Queens DA, Melinda Katz. 556, a New Jersey animal shelter asking for donations now to help care for close to a dozen neglected dogs, though now they're saying maybe as many as 20. Somebody dropped off these dogs at 3 different parks over the weekend in central New Jersey. One of them was White Oak Park in Branchburg.
Maybe thinking they could make money breeding dogs, or if they would just have some dogs that started breeding and they couldn't get rid of them, like a hoarding situation. I don't know exactly what it is, but these dogs weren't properly taken care of.
Yes, nobody really knows who dropped off these dogs. All of the dogs in need of care showed signs of severe neglect after being found in Branchbrook, Boundbrook, and Franklin parks. Animal control officials still don't know who released them. They're looking at camera footage, trying to figure it out.
We were able to collect all of them, have them a quick checked out by the veterinarian, gave them anything to make them comfortable.
We had a lot of ticks, a lot of ticks, so there's a lot of bug bites. Got all of them off that I seen. She had a lot of ticks.
And it costs about $1,000 to clean up these dogs. So that's why they're asking for donations. And then, of course, they'll put them up for adoption.
I've seen similar situations before, but on a scale this large, involving 3 municipalities with 3 different animal shelters. Yeah. No, nothing like this before.
Yeah, it's just kind of a crazy story that I'm sure they'll figure out at some point.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder, what the heck is going on here?